Welcome to this presentation featuring the new encaustic pigment stick colors and encaustic colors from R&F Handmade Paints. This is being brought to you by Wet Paint Artists, Materials, and Framing, and we are in St. Paul, Minnesota, in the Midwest. And so we welcome everybody. We have people from, actually I had someone from Dublin, I think, on the call, and also Mexico, so I hope they're on the call. My name is Virginia McBride, as you can probably see from what is showing there. I manage the classes and events for Wet Paint, and this is our first live Zoom event, so thanks for your patience. And we will have the chat function is going to be how you ask your questions throughout the session here, and myself and Ben, who's with Jodi, will watch for those and be able to ask Jodi those questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can as we go. Now, product, that's why we're here, right? We want to see this wonderful new, these new colors by R&F Handmade Paints. And so everything you see that Jodi's using today is available for purchase at wetpaintart.com. That's our website, wetpaintart.com. And I will type those into the chat section at the beginning and at the end of our session. And a special sale for us this weekend is that all the R&F products are 20% off MSRP through Sunday, June 28th. So that is a good sale. And just so you know, we do ship everywhere in the world. So we're a small company, but we're living in a global world. So we do that. And I wanted to acknowledge Darren Syme, who's on the call today. He is President CEO of R&F. Welcome, Darren. And thank you so much for supporting this event. Now, without further adu, it's my great pleasure to introduce Jodi Reeb. She is probably one of my favorite instructors to work with. Take a bow, yes. Fun, energetic, excellent artist and teaching artist. And I will also include her website on in the chat so that you can check out her work and also see what workshops she's got coming up. I know she's known to many of you on the call. So Darren says thank you. Ah, you're sweet. Thank you. Okay. All right. I think now, Jodi, you are pinned, and I think we'll just go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to mute my mic, and then I'll unmute myself when it's time to ask a question.
Okay.
All righty. Thanks.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm so excited. As you know, lots of workshops got canceled, and this is kind of us making the best of it. And it's been, for me, it's been really inspiring to be able to connect with so many artists from around the world in an hour. I've taught a year's long worth of workshops in an hour. So it's kind of fun to be able to do this. And R&F Handmade Paints is my favorite paint. I've been working with their paints for 12 years as an encaustic artist, painter who uses encaustic painting. And I'm also going to showcase some Encausticbord from Ampersand art, and as well as Silverbrush, just kind of a whole package situation for you today. But I'm going to kind of talk like this as I'm explaining things, and then I'm going to go to a demonstration mode so you can kind of see some ways that I'm using the colors. And I just have to say, I've been really focused on the colors this week, and just having a limited palette was really inspiring to me, because you don't, you know, you can really take your paint really far as lights and darks and mixing colors. So it's been a fun exercise actually to work with these new colors. So without further ado, I'm going to switch my camera. Again, ask questions in the chat, and then we're going to have some time at the end for more questions in case I missed anything. So I'm going to run this workshop like a color theory, and Richard Frumis from R&F is my inspiration, and I hope I can make him proud today. So we'll go to the view. I'm just going to, oops, not that one. I'm going to mute myself. Okay, we're going to change it up here. So what I have right now is I've got a heated palette from R&F right here. And I've got the paints here as well. And I'm just going to go through and showcase all the different paints. And then we'll just kind of start from there. So I thought it would be really helpful to show you just how beautiful this antique gold is. It's a wax paint, but it's kind of a miracle. Honestly, it's called Ancient Gold. And R&F's been calling it really bold. I guess that rhymes with gold, so they're calling it bold. But it's kind of my new favorite paint, honestly, because it's a metallic. I love the metallics. So I'm gonna just start by heating up the paint on my palette here. And I just thought it would be helpful to show you kind of in real time just how beautiful the shimmer is on this, because it's pretty extraordinary, I feel like. So some little trivia about the color is R&F is saying it's really nothing like anything else, and I agree. And it's really a standalone color. Obviously you can mix it if you want to, but on its own, it's just really quite lovely. So you can see the shimmer, especially on the brush strokes, and make sure I'm getting some nice close-ups for you there. And then I'm going to go next to Indented Blue. And you can see it's almost a black. In fact, it's considered a chromatic black in the sense that it's a colored black. So I'm going to show you that. And I'm just painting right onto my heated palette here. And as a little aside, this is a color that I mixed yesterday. So this is the Ancient Gold with the Indented Blue. And Darren's listening, and I think, Darren, this could be a new iridescent color that you could call Jodi's favorite green, blue, gold color. So accidentally mixed my colors because I had a gold on my brush and made this whole new color, but that's how amazing things happen by accident. So this color is very translucent, and as I'm brushing it on, it has a thickness to it, and it almost becomes like that chromatic black that I was talking about earlier. And if you lay it on rather thinly, or letting the paint cool on the brush, you can get this sort of translucent blue as well. And I'm painting on Encausticbord, which is a fabulous product through Ampersand. They have formulated, whoops, I gotta turn this around. They have formulated this surface to be super absorbent, and it's kind of my go-to, honestly. I'll show you next the Provence Blue. And this is a beautiful color. It's very similar to a soft blue, and it has even a violet tinge to it. And when I've had it on my palette for a little while, the colors will start to kind of separate. And you can see that it is made of kind of a cobalt blue and maybe a violet. Goes toward that color. And
thank you.
Has like a gray tone to it too. So I'm going to show it later in the demonstration how you can add color to it, and then to the next one, and it kind of makes it more of a neutral paint color. So I just wanted to showcase all of these colors because I just think they're a beautiful rounding out of the colors that R&F already has.
Somebody was asking what the name of the dark blue color was before Provence Blue.
Okay, that's a good question. So it's called Indented, and I'm just going to stone that, or put that in so you can see that.
Hello.
Indented Blue.
Candy?
So it might be on the list that we have. And Darren's chiming in. Yes, okay, good. It's nice to have Darren, who is the expert's expert. And right here I'm using R&F Handmade Paint brushes, but I've also got some silver brushes here that are nice. This is an Alpine White, and these are goat hair brushes. And I think you can also get these through wet paint. And just a little aside, one thing that I've learned this week about brushes is if you want to make sure you don't get the little stray hairs in your brushes, you can kind of just work this in the beginning and just get rid of any of those stray brush hairs, and then your paintings will be perfect. You won't have to dig those little brush hairs out of the painting later. So that's a little brush thing. Okay, I'm going to finish up with that. And of course, I'm not fusing this right now for the interest of time, but I would be fusing this with the heat gun or a torch in between each layer.
Somebody was asking what the difference is between pigment sticks and encaustic paint.
Good question. So pigment sticks have oil paint and beeswax in them, like a processed beeswax. The encaustic paint has damar resin, pigment, and beeswax. So there's no oil paint in the encaustic paint. I'm just going down the line here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
So that was Provence Blue, and Provence Blue has been in a pigment stick for a really long time, so it's being added right now to the line of colors. And the next color I'm going
Everything
to show
is fine except I'm home.
is, oh my gosh, there's somebody who has,
I'm trying to find out who that is.
I don't know. Right now I'm not, because I'm getting messages from my friends out
okay,
there
Cheryl, I'm responding to
telling me
you
to stay where I am.
on that. And I don't know if we should mute everyone and then, because that person is not knowing that
They're telling me what's going on out there.
Yes, I'm trying to find him.
Nobody's
Okay.
paying attention to rules.
Virginia, I think if you go through the list, you can find the microphone that might be.
Food is hard to come by.
So everybody, I'm so sorry about this. You can plan and then things like this happen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going now to a Nickel Yellow, and I want to answer that question about the pigment stick. So this is encaustic paint, which has beeswax, damar resin, and pigment in it. And a pigment stick, would you hand me one, Ben? Is, this is my well-loved pigment stick, but the pigment stick here has processed beeswax, oil, and linseed oil and pigment in it. And if that's not totally right, Darren can chime in, but that is the difference. This needs to be heated with heat to melt it, to paint with it. And this is ready to go just the way it is. Okay, so does that answer your question, Cheryl? I think you had that question. So I'm just going to kind of keep going here, and I'm going to paint the colors, and then I'm going to wash the palette here. So now I am painting on the nickel paint, and you can see that it's very translucent, and it's a soft, cool yellow, and it's not as acid as the cadmium lemon, or it doesn't have the brightness of the cadmium yellow. It's almost like a quiet yellow, which I kind of appreciate. And then depending on the colors that it's next to, it also takes on kind of a limey green tinge, which I'll be showing you next. So it's really one of my new favorites, because I kind of tend to go to the cadmium yellow for my yellows, and this is definitely a nice one where it's a cooler yellow. So I'm kind of just dry brushing this on here, but where it's layering, it ends up being more opaque, and then where it's thin, again, it's very translucent. So, all right, I'm just going to kind of keep going. Are there any questions so far? And I'm running out of my palette here, so I am going to wipe part of this. And a way to clean your palette, I'm just going to kind of throw in little tips here and there, is soy wax. And I'm just going to sprinkle that on my palette. My studio has 14-foot high ceilings, so I have my phone right here versus having a big camera over the table. Okay, the next color I'm going to go with is Prussian Blue. And this is another beautiful blue that has a really deep red color to it. And it's very velvety as far as R&F is calling it. And this has also been a pigment stick previously, but now this encaustic paint is being added. And it's, to me, when I was working with it, it looks like it's between, here's the color here. It looks like it's between a kind of like if you put wine and like red wine and a blue, it's got that like a reddish undertone that way. And it's almost like a phthalo blue and between an ultramarine blue. It's kind of in the middle between these two blues. So I'm just going to move this on here. And it really does give kind of like a midnight blue color with the paintings. Just want to make sure you can kind of see all the different layers. This really has a lot of depth as far as the blue color goes. And later in the demonstration, I'm going to be adding white to all the colors so you can really see how you can extend the colors and not just use them like straight out of the tube, so to speak. And once I catch the light there, you can see it's got a little bit of a red tinge to it, I think. All right, so I'm going to keep moving on. Feel free to ask any questions as you have coming along. The next one is Magenta Earth. And Magenta Earth is a reddish, kind of a mahogany top tone in this color. And when you extend it, it also has like a purplish plum. But it's probably going to be my new favorite red, honestly, because I've mixed this with white. And it makes a beautiful, rich pink, as well as having this red be kind of on the browner side. I tend not to like pinky reds. And cadmiums, of course, are beautiful too, but this is sort of an alternative red, I would say, to like the alizarin crimson.
So there's a question, are pigment sticks only used as a top layer because it dries so slowly?
I tend to use it that way, but a lot of oil painters use it for their only paint. But encaustic painting wise, I would definitely use it as an underlayer. But you can fuse it into the paint, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to kind of showcase the pigment sticks at the end of this demonstration, and I'll show you that you can use it as a layer as well.
So it doesn't have to just be used as a top layer?
It does not have to be just used as a top layer. No, not at all. I'll do thin layers of it between layers of encaustic medium, and you can get some really beautiful depths by doing a layer of the pigment stick, encaustic medium, pigment stick, encaustic medium. I love to work with the pigment stick in skies, for instance, with different blues, and just having the blues just each have their own layer. And I'm going to show you how to use the pigment stick with incising, and then that would be a time I would use it as the last layer. So here you go. You can see how beautiful this red is. It's a little toward the cool, but also gets really toward the wine colored where it's overlapping right there. And the last color I'm going to show you is Turkey Umber Pale. And it really is a green gray, or maybe it's a gray green. I'm not sure whichever way you want to consider that. But it comes from Turkey Umber Greenish. And it has been, this has been just actually, sorry, I'm kind of looking at my little list here. So it's newly added as a pigment stick and as an encaustic paint. And this is amazing. Like if you have this, you can use it as a green or you can use it as a gray. And I'll show you how to do that coming up as well. So I'm just gonna kind of start it on this little spot that I have left on my palette. I've got my brushes lined up here off camera. Just so you can see how beautiful of a color it is. It's really a rich gray. And I've really been focusing on my own work, not just using pure black. I think it's richer to have more of a, anytime you have a neutral, that you can have it going toward a color. So I've been loving using like the blues, chromatic blacks that have some blue in them. And this is a gray that has a little green. So I'm not covering the board completely just for time, but I just wanted to kind of show you how that applies and how it can be used thickly or thinly, as the case may be. So now I'm gonna just show how color is relative, and this is on the nickel cadmium, or I'm sorry, in the nickel yellow. So I'm gonna just start by taking some of that gray, and I'm gonna paint it on here. And I'm also gonna paint it on another color, let's say, the magenta. So I'm just going to show how you can really see how these colors show up differently depending on what they're next to. And let's also do this Indented blue. So against that yellow, it really turns black. And kind of like doesn't look quite as harsh on the magenta. I'm just going to keep going. And the gold is going to look fantastic on either one, just because I'm biased. And I'm using this cute little brush from Silverbrush. Like this is such a baby Hake brush. And this is also some of the brushes I'm using today. But I love this little tiny size. It's going to be perfect for putting in, if you're putting in these little tins on your palettes. They don't have a very long handle brush. So I'm going to add some gold. You can see that shimmer. And then again, on the yellow, because yellow against yellow, they'll usually tend to take the color away from each other. So obviously it's going to be less dramatic. And then I'm going to take my magenta. I'm going to go just on this, the Nipple Yellow. And that really turns a lot pinker once it's on that yellow color. And then I'm going to take the Prussian Blue. And since it's translucent, I'm expecting it to turn a little bit more toward the green. And then on the dark of the red, again, that's probably going to turn black. So you really can use these colors. If you say you're in the middle of the night painting your studio and you run out of black, you can pay attention and use some of these chromatic blacks as a replacement. And then let's add one more color. Let's do the Provence Blue, just to see how that shows up on these colors. And this is like Joseph Albert's color theory that we're doing right now. So look at how these Provence Blues are turning completely different. I feel like this looks so much darker on this color because it's a bolder background. And then the red sort of takes away from, the purple so that it turns a little bit cooler. Okay, so just as an idea, just to kind of give you some sense of how you can play with colors. So I want to show you next. Are there any questions about that? So the next thing I'm going to show you, is there any color questions?
Yeah, there was a question, can we see the lemon yellow on the magenta?
Oh, yes, that's right. We can go backwards. So the lemon yellow, that was the Nickel Yellow. So I'm going to kind of going off screen here. I'll put that at the bottom. So it is transparent as far as the yellow goes. And so some of that red is showing through.
Can you hold that up a little closer to the camera?
Yes. So it almost becomes a white. It's like a tint with that red really taking some of that away.
Is the lighter blue Provence Blue?
It is, yes. Yes, this is the one it's kind of like a purpley blue, purpley blue. Let me see, I'm trying to get that so you can read that okay. And we will have a list of the different colors. It's on the, I think it's on the color chart. And this is like the brand new color chart that I'm showing you today. And this is available online. You should have gotten a link with this on your Zoom meeting invite. So you can totally check that out. And so this is a new beautiful color chart. And it shows all of the colors, including the new ones. And talks also which ones are available and pigment sticks as well as encaustic paints.
Jodi, I will put that in the chat, the resources page.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to just focus right now on the Magenta Earth. The Magenta Earth can really be paired with other reds and make them more of a rich red. On this one, I've paired it with a cadmium medium red, which is this one. Mine is well loved and my label is gone. You probably have some that look like this as well. But I'm gonna mix this next to my Magenta Earth. And then I'm gonna take another brush. I'm just gonna mix those two up and see how you can, so I want you to be able to see how that Magenta Earth is gonna kind of tone down the red somewhat, but not make it muddy. So often if you add black to a color, which I think I was taught that in art school, it ends up making the color gray and black. And really you can add the opposite on the color wheel. Say if you're going to be adding green to a color, it's red. That will make your color so much richer and not tone it down and make it gray. I'm going to set that down for a second and add some tape. And this is where I start losing my supplies that are right in front of my face. So I like to use this tape just to give myself a nice crisp edge to work with.
Jodi, there's a question about gold leaf. Can you incorporate that into an encaustic painting?
Yes, yes, we're getting into the, so we are going to be doing another demonstration with wet paint in 2 weeks, and that is something I'm going to cover then. And what day is that workshop? That's going to be?
That is July 17th. That's
July.
also a Friday at the same time.
Yes, so I'm going to showcase doing some techniques like that. But you absolutely can, and I just heat up the wax. I'll just kind of quickly answer your question now. But I would heat up the wax using an R&F heat gun like this and put it on the low setting, and then you can burnish the metal leafing onto the area where you want it to go. As well, I also use the tape to kind of keep it contained if you have a metal leafing that you want to just go in a certain area. So, okay, so now I mix some of this cadmium medium red into my Magenta Earth. And I'm just going to add a lot so you can see how that's going to get just deeper and redder. And I'm just going to brush that on. And I already did it on the other side because I was experimenting, but I just wanted to show you.
Cheryl wants to know, does each color get its own brush permanently, or do you clean the brushes for each project and use?
Good question, Cheryl. I keep them kind of permanently in the family. So this would become a red brush, and I will clean it, but sometimes the fibers will get stained, and that way it might carry over to the new paint that I mix, especially if it's a light color. So I tend to do like a small brush like this for a color, and then I'll also have a big one sort of dedicated to that color. And it just saves washing out my paint and wasting it. And I can just kind of come into the studio, heat up my brush, and just keep painting. So that's a great question. Okay, you can also mix this Magenta Earth with the alizarin crimson, and that will make it even more rich too. So that's kind of a suggestion. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to show you now how you can use the Provence Blue next to a cobalt blue. For instance, I've got the Provence Blue already painted on my Encausticbord, and I am using clay board as well. So no matter what you use for encaustic painting, you want to have a substrate that's absorbent. So it can be panels of wood as well, and I use that too. So I'm just going to mask this so you can see that harder edged line here. Getting stuck on my... So with this one, I'm going to show you how to use the cobalt blue, and I'm going to put this next to the Provence Blue, which is going to make it almost become a neutral blue. So let's clear off. Actually, I'm going to do this off camera here. I'm getting the outside of my palette here. And I'm going to use this angled brush here from the Adelaide or Silverbrush. Start to brush on this pure cobalt blue, right? Without any additives or anything like that. And it's a brand new brush, so I'm just getting it loaded up with paint here. Okay, and so normally I would fuse it, but I'm just, in this case, I just want to show you. So look at how all of a sudden that cobalt blue really takes the kind of the blue out of that Provence Blue and makes it almost like a grayish purple. So I think this is really fascinating with color theory, because you can just have just a few paints and have just some really interesting and beautiful effects. And if you cover that up, again, it looks by itself, it looks more purpley. Okay. So now I'm going to switch gears. I'm still kind of talking about colors, but I wanted to showcase how I'm using the Indented blue on this side, and I've used the Turkey Umber Pale over here, and it's really taken some of that green out of it because of the dark blue, and it's almost like a gray. So when you use a lighter toned color with a darker color like this, the contrast is really pushed up a lot, and then you can sort of get darker and lighter colors without changing or adding white, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
There's a question about, is there a book or a website that explains the color theory specifics that you're using today?
Yes, there is a master, and it's Joseph Elbers, or Joseph. It's Josef Elbers, EERS, and maybe I can have Virginia put that on. But when I went to art school, I had 2 color theory classes, and it was like the most important classes I've taken, because when you have information and knowledge about your color palette, you really have a huge wealth of colors available to you, and you don't even need to have them, you know, like pre-mixed for you, so you can really just do it yourself. So I think, does everybody get that? So it's Joseph Elbers. And there's a lot of other good ones out there too, but he was the one that really started it. So I am have some Indented blue already next to my Nickel Yellow, and I am putting these together because I just want to show you how, by adding even just a neutral on top of these two, how different they can be. And this is a clay board. Kind of trying to take just the tape off here. Whoops. It's tearing on me. All right, so that yellow even looks so much brighter or lighter compared to the darker. And let's take some of the raw umber, or sorry, turkey umber pale. And the turkey umber pale is available as both pigment stick and as a encaustic paint. Sorry, I should have my brush warming up here. But I'm going to start to paint this on. And I've noticed when I paint this color on a dark color, you can see how it really turns gray. And this is similar to the first sample I showed you. And then let's now paint that on the Nickel Yellow. Sorry, my brush is still not warmed up. It's kind of hitting and stumbling across the surface. But don't they look totally different? Like it looks like on the yellow, it looks very dark, like that gray looks very dark. But on the blue, it's almost like a pale tinted white. I just think this kind of thing is magic. I've just always been enthralled and interested in playing with this kind of idea. So I've done nothing to change the color, but it visually looks completely different, I think, anyway. That's why you're muted, in case you don't agree. No, just kidding.
Somebody wants to know, how does the Nickel Yellow compare to Olive Yellow?
Maybe Darren can speak to that, but it's to me, it looks like it's more of a lemon color, where the Olive Yellow has more green in it. Would Darren care to comment in the comments about that? So I'm just going to keep going along, but that's my opinion, is the olive green is olive, or olive yellow is more olive and green. So I'm just totally in love with this gray green turkey umber pale. So I'm going to show you again. Now this side has malachite green on it. Let's see where this color is a staple in my repertoire of images and painting. So this is malachite green on this side, and this is Nickel Yellow. And just having these two next to each other makes this yellow more like fluorescent almost. It really is popping quite a lot. And I'm just going to paint this on here too. So again, just going with this turkey umber pale. And the malachite is like a medium color, I would say. And so this, to me, this gray looks much darker happening on that Nickel Yellow than it does on this color. And I'm going to keep going. I've got my little samples here already with the Nickel Yellow on it. And I wanted to paint the turkey umber on here. Just going to kind of load this up. And then I wanted to add some of the malachite onto this. Actually, I'm going to take this back and just let you digest that for a second. So I'm just painting the turkey umber pale on here. And next to this yellow, it's really turning dark. It's almost like, I don't know, like a really dark gray. And the yellow is zapping some of that green out of this gray. So I'm not going to cover it quite all the way, but you kind of get that idea. And then I want to come back with the malachite. So I'm going to take this malachite and I'm going to go off camera and paint with that. And then I'm going to put this on top. So I'm just kind of playing. And this is like an exercise you can do in your studio. You could take 3 different colors that you wanted to try and, you know, just painting over each of them, kind of taking turns like that. And see what you get as far as the color saturation because of the color that it's next to. So this one, I might say that the malachite on the nickel yellow to me looks more gray blue versus this one still looks kind of green blue. So the neutral doesn't really change it that much, but this definitely looks more neutral to me. Okay, any questions about that? So we're just going to keep going. And I'm even making kind of a cool little gridded painting now after all this, right? So the last one I'm going to show you is I'm going to go, I'm going to put magenta, the Magenta Earth with some white in it. And I'm just going to go into the middle. See, that if you guys would be in my studio, you would see how messy I am with my paints. Like I'm going right into the white, the magenta color with my, with my white. But it's easier to mix that way, see? So I'm just coming in and I'm lightening it quite a bit, but I love this pink color that I'm getting. It's kind of an earthy color. It's not so cotton candy pink, which I love. So I'm going to just kind of brush this on. And then I'm going to come over with it with, you guessed it, the Tricky Umber Pale. We're not set that color yet. I guess we know what it looks like on this, but I just like to compare it and also see how is that nickel yellow kind of faring with this more red color. And it's looking more green to me right now. And this Turkey Umber Pale is really getting more toward the green as well. Anyway, just some kind of fun ways to play with the colors. So is there any questions about these? Nope. Then we're moving on. So I wanted to show you, so this is an encaustic board with all the different colors on it. And I'm going to mix white into them and just show you what that could be. So you could have basically a whole set of paints doubled after you add white to them. So I'm just going to go through and add the colors. Not to that one. And I want to mention that these paints in stores are going to be available starting July 1st. You can order these, I think you can order them now, right, Virginia? And then they'll become available. So when you add white to, sorry, I'm trying not to make you sick here by moving too fast. So I'm starting with the gold and I've added some white to it, and the white is going to really dull the finish on this. So anytime you have a color that's translucent and you add white to it, it's going to really create an opaque color.
What kind of white are you using?
I am using neutral white. So it does have some tan in it, or maybe Titan Buff. I do love the Titan Buff, or not Titan Buff, titanium white for most of my colors. But since this palette was more earthy, I would say, I kind of tended to use the neutral today. So I'm going to add now more white to this. And the colors, when they have lots of depth to them, when you add white to them, you can really see all the different layers of colors that happen. And this is turning more gray right now because of that. And my colors are running down my palette here. I work in a 1894, the building is like over 100 years old, so my floors are very uneven, and where it's showing up on my palette with my paint rolling down the hill. Okay, so this one is the Prussian Blue. So I'm just going to mix that and show you, and this gives you like a beautiful deep violet. I can even add more white to it, but it's giving me somewhere between, gosh, gosh, I don't even know, like an ultramarine, but it's not even ultramarine. It's like more beautiful than that. Just like this kind of midnighty purpley blue. And then let's go into the Prussian, or I'm sorry, the Provence Blue. And this, with adding the white here, I can see there's a lot of purple undertones. I don't know if you can see that, but they're really showing up on this board right now. And let's now do the Indented Throne. It is hard to see this color, but adding white to it makes a big difference and we're able to see it much easier. Sorry if I'm going off camera here.
Do encaustic paints need good ventilation when using because of the odor?
Yes, yes. I didn't really go over the equipment too much, kind of thinking that I'd get into the paints, but encaustic painting requires ventilation because when you're working with it, these paints have pigment in them, and the encaustic medium, this is encaustic medium, it's a little bag of this. This has damar resin and beeswax in it, and once you heat this at the 200-degree temperature to melt the paint, it does become a fume. And so yes, you absolutely will need to have ventilation. And the most basic ventilation that I do is just having a cross ventilation, whether it's a door open and a window, and then just making sure that the air is moving, because even though you have that going on, it still may not move. So just, that's a really good question. So we kind of saw the pink from earlier. I'm just gonna add some more white to this. And this is like a demo board that I will have around, because it's kind of fun just to give yourself a good reminder of the values of paint that you can mix and have around when you're painting your own paintings. It just gives you a place to start when you are mixing color. And last but not least, we are going to go into the Nickel Yellow, and I'm mixing it with my left hand. So I'm just going to press that on here as the last color area. Oops. Oops. There we go. All right. So now this, since I've added white to this Nickel Yellow, it's really going toward the green. Kind of showing you close up. So I didn't add a lot of white, but you obviously can add a lot more. So just, I kind of wanted just to show you, especially since these two colors, the blues were more translucent, that it's hard to see what colors they are until you add the white. Okay, any questions about that? I'm getting quite the messy palette over here. Running downhill.
Somebody said they couldn't hear what you said about basic ventilation.
Oh, the basic ventilation would be to have a fan near your work table or and a window or a door open. So just having two sources really helps with having cross ventilation. So we can talk about that a little bit more. The R&F Handmade Paint site has information about ventilation. If you wanted to go there, you could also look that up.
If you add more white, will it continue to lighten the base color?
It will, yes. Yes, if you could even start, I'd even recommend starting with a white and then adding the color to the white. So the color, because otherwise it'll take forever for that white to get mixed, if that makes sense. So starting with a little bit of white on your palette and add the color to the white. Okay, so now for this, any other questions? Okay, so this last portion, I want to show you the pigment sticks. And here is this, just put on the pigment stick, just put on a piece of paper with some encaustic medium on it. So I just wanted to show you some texture. And I'm going to do, I'm going to put down the color Pure on one layer of my board, and then I'm going to scrape it and wipe it, just so you can see how the colors change with those different applications. Will you hand me those pigment sticks?
Somebody was asking about the best brushes to use.
Okay. So that's a great question about brushes. Natural bristle brushes, I can't even say it. Natural bristle brushes are the best. This one is a goat hair brush. There are This is another one. This is kind of a cool one from Silverbrush. It's got an angled Hake brush. And I've been using this for Encaustic Medium, but it's very ergonomic, as you can see. This, I think this brush is swine hair. It's like much more coarse and stickery. So you would not want to use a vinyl brush or even tack-on brushes. Those are also synthetic or nylon. So just always go for the natural bristles, and then you'll be perfectly set. Because of the heat and the melting paint, the brushes won't last at all if you work with a lot of heat, and that encaustic painting requires that. So basic equipment would be ventilation, natural bristle brush, oh my gosh, I keep saying it, natural bristle brushes, R&F Handmade Paints, and a heated palette. That's kind of the basics for encaustic painting. All right, so I'm just gonna start, and this is how the paints come in a tube. And this plastic tube is actually for shipping. So if you take them out, you can just place them in a plastic container. And then there's a little plastic, which I've already taken off right here. And the oil, because it's oil, will skin over, but you're just gonna remove that the little skin over the oil paint. And I'm just gonna work from pure down this way. I'm just rubbing this kind of over my masked tape because I just wanted to show you the different techniques. So I'm going to leave this. So oil painters will just paint with these oil sticks without even brushes and just use these to kind of draw with and paint with. So you can do it like that. So for this part, I'm going to scrape it just so you can kind of see the color depths. So this could be using a credit card or, you know, some kind of squeegee. I'm scraping it and then wiping it, and there's no wax on here at all. I'm just going right onto the board. So wiping it really gives you a very thin layer application. There you go. You can see that, you can't see that. And I'm just going to kind of keep going down the line. So this one I have is an Indented blue, and I'm just going to wipe this right down here as well. And having a white background shows this color off really well. And I'm going to start by wiping this one here. So it really looks between a ultramarine blue and a cobalt blue, and somewhere in between phthalo as well. So it has a nice body to it, I'd say. I'm going to scrape this again, and you can just use a little bit of paint. It goes a long way when you're scraping, but you can see that it gives you kind of more of an intense color. Let's try that Magenta Earth, which is my new favorite color as far as reds go. So almost like a light wine color. And this, by wiping it, you can really see the brown tones in it.
Do you store the pigment sticks in the tube, or do they have to, can they be stored outside of the tube?
They can be stored outside of the tube. These are really just for shipping. When I teach workshops, though, I tend to leave them in there just for my own self because I have a whole container of colors and they do get mixed up. But I would recommend, if it's your own studio, that you would have maybe a Tupperware container of all the red colors and then all the blue colors, and keep them separate that way, but they absolutely can be stored outside of the tube. Just doing a little bit more scraping there. And I'll just do one more color. I'll do the Nipple Yellow. And it does come in the, I actually have a tester here from being at R&F in November, but this is the gold stick, the ancient gold, and that comes in a pigment stick as well. So I'll scrape this. And metal palette knives are another staple I would use with encaustic painting because it really allows you to scrape the paint away if you need to. And then I'm going to do one more wipe. And this gets really light on the end. So I'll just kind of show you the different wipings. and then scraping, some different techniques. And so oil pigment sticks can be used just by themselves or in applications with encaustic painting, which I will show you now.
Somebody was wondering if you could have time to do the gold.
Oh, sure, why not? Let's do the gold. Okay, got a little stripe of area left on my board.
And then what do you use to wipe the sticks with?
I tend to use paper towels because I have a lot of them. Kim wipes, those blue wipes or anything you get at the hardware store work really well, but I tend to use paper towels. So this is the wiping, and it's got a warm tone to it, so you can see that here, I'm gonna do this closer, and then I'll scrape this one. It kind of scraped already a little bit coming out of the tube. It's got like a granular, let me see if I can give you, you see that shimmery quality, that amazing beautifulness right there. Okay, so as far as pigment sticks, all the colors come in pigment sticks as well as encaustic paint before. So the Provence Blue was originally just listed as a pigment stick as well as the Prussian Blue, but now those are both offered as encaustic paints. So all of the colors I showed today are both encaustic paint and pigment sticks. All right. So I've got one more little quick demo for you. I just wanted to show you how to make a painting out of all this. So this is something I've learned through a couple different artists. This is doing a leaf overlay, and the color underneath here is the Prussian Blue. And on this one, I've used the phthalo pale light under the leaves, and then using the pigment sticks to pull up the grain and leaf webbing of the leaf. And then this is kind of like the opposite. So I'd like to work in series and just kind of play around with different combinations. So this one has the ancient gold over it, over Prussian Blue. And then this one has Prussian, but it has a little bit of the gold in it as well. So I'm going to show you how to do this technique. And I have right now a ancient gold, luscious, beautiful paint covered surface. And all my panels today had 2 layers of encaustic medium on them to begin with. So I did that first. So this one has 2 layers of encaustic medium and 1 layer of the ancient gold. And I'm just going to heat this up to start. My painting's been sitting for a while, so I'm just going to heat this up. And you don't want it to get molten, but you just want it to be warm. And then you're going to take a fresh leaf. This is like one of my leaves out of my parking lot at my studio right here. And it is also the one that I used to make this painting right here. So what I'm going to do is vein side down. I'm going to place this leaf. And then I'm going to take some wax paper and a spoon. And I'm just going to put the wax paper over the leaf, kind of show you what that looks like up close. And then I've got a spoon that I just use for burnishing and rubbing. And I'm just going to begin by pressing down the leaves into that warm wax. And the wax paper just allows me to do that without getting any wax on my spoon. And it just lets me really press hard too. I'm just going to work this over the whole painting. And the reason this works well with fresh leaves is we're going to need to pick this leaf up at some point. And if it's a crumbly old leaf, it's just going to break and it'll become collage, actually. It'll get stuck in your painting forever. Okay, so now I'm going to start by taking my Prussian Blue. And I've got some white here, so I think I'm going to use that just so it's a little bit lighter. I'm mixing my Prussian Blue with some white, and then I'm going to lightly brush over my leaf. So keeping the leaf where it is for now. And I'm just going to cover up the leaf and the whole background of the painting, including the edges. So So this is a really fun technique just for summer, I think. I love leaves. I work a lot with nature-based kind of ideas in my work. And so you can work with this idea on a large scale too, but I would do each individual leaf at a time. So I'm just getting the paint in those grooves. And then I'm going to lightly fuse this. My cord got caught here. So on the lowest setting of the heat gun, I'm gonna just lightly fuse this to make the layers blend together. So this is really important. So each time you are painting a layer of wax encaustic paint onto another layer, you're always going to fuse it so that when you're finished, your whole painting will be one layer. And that's what bonds the paint and the different colors together. So I'm keeping this moving so it doesn't get too hot in any area. And I'm just gonna let this cool for just a moment. And I brush my hand over it. I don't really know that that makes a difference, but I do it every time. And then I'm gonna lift this up and I'm just gonna show you. It's so exciting and fun. Ta-da! So I've got this amazing little painting, and the veins right now are not able to be seen that much. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to use pigment stick in those lines, and that's gonna pull up the detailing from the veining of the leaves. Just like on this one, I don't know if you can see, I did the ancient gold on this. So the bottom layer was the Prussian blue, and then I did phthalo green light on top, and then ancient gold in the lines. And then on this one, I used a raw umber, so kind of a brown color into the lines of the leaves. And the one that I'm kind of doing today, so this one I used phthalo green pale in the lines for this one. So just when you're thinking about your idea, what would be the best? So then if my leaf is lighter, I would do a dark contrasting oil pigment stick. But since my leaves were dark on this one, I did a light colored pigment stick. And in the interest of time, it's better to let this painting sit for like an hour and let it cool off completely before you put pigment stick in the lines. But I'm just gonna show you today what that will look like. And let's use magenta just for something different. So I'm gonna take some of the pigment off of the stick like this and wear a glove because this is oil paint and it will get all over. So I'm just gonna start to rub this into the lines. And I'm not wanting to put a bunch of paint in the lines right now because I'm going to wipe this away. So the idea is that I'm pressing the pigment stick into the recessed areas, and that I'm going to wipe away the areas that are smooth. So this is what it looks like right now, but this is going to be wiped clean. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like. Grab a paper towel, and I'm just going to start to lightly wipe it. And it's going to stay in those areas where the leaf had veins. And I'll even get like a new paper towel part. I'll just kind of keep, instead of wiping and wiping and wiping, which just really smears it around, this will have you clean an area and then wipe it and clean and keep wiping. So you can see I'm starting to get some of the detailing in that. And I'm just going to keep working on this until I'm satisfied with that coloring. And I really want those leaves to shine the golden silver or golden shininess. So I'm going to wipe those especially clean. We'll get a new paper towel. And so for the question that was asked earlier is, do you want to do the pigment stick at the end? And this is when I would say yes. You absolutely want to do this at the end. Because covering this up later, you'll lose all that beautiful detail that you just created. All right, so I think that's pretty good. You can see how that turned out really nicely. I'm going to move this over so you can see it even a little better. Okay, so the last step is, I recommend even letting this set up overnight, but if you are in a rush like I am today, you're still going to fuse this. And I'm gonna fuse it on the low setting. And this step basically has the wax envelop the oil pigment stick. And I know there's kind of two different camps on there, but I really prefer to fuse the oil pigment stick. And so it becomes part of the wax and not its own separate layer. So there, now I have a nice little beautiful summer inspired painting using leaves. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna switch my view back to me. Ta-da! All right, so that is kind of what I had planned for you today. Are there any other questions that some of you might have for painting with these new colors? These new beautiful pigment sticks colors?
Jodi, maybe just say the colors one more time.
Oh, sure, I can do that. All right, this program is brought to you by Provence Blue. So this is like that Monet kind of inspired blue purple color. The Prussian Blue, which matches my outfit. No, just kidding. You can't really see it. The Prussian Blue is a color that is, let me look at my notes. It's kind of between, it's the reddest blue, and it is also kind of between the phthalo blue and the ultramarine blue. Prussian Blue. Okay. Kind of a traditional one in watercolors, especially, I would say, oil paints. Indented Blue is, I'm looking at my notes here too, is kind of that chromatic black. And I love it for that reason, because it's very saturated color, and you can use it, you know, mixing it with other colors, and it has some red in it as well, but it's definitely redder. Okay. And then Nickel Yellow. That doesn't really do it any justice, but it's kind of an electric yellow. I just feel like you can't see. Just not showing up very good. But Nickel Yellow is the cooler, kind of quiet yellow of the bunch. And then we have our beautiful Ancient Gold. You should see my mess right now, you guys. I can't find anything. Okay, here it is. I've got paper towels and panels everywhere. So this is Ancient Gold. And then Magenta Earth. Magenta Earth is that kind of brown undertone with the magenta. And last but not least, I really showcased this quite a bit, was the Turkey Umber Pale. And this is that gray-green color. So I think I got them all, right? Yes, okay. So, and they're all available in encaustic paint as well as pigment sticks. So both ways, depending on which way you like to work. So 20% off. On my website, on the Zoom invite, I've got some other workshops that I've recorded using encaustic painting, working with encaustic with photo collage. I do a lot of photography, so I'm combining the two with pigment sticks on that. And so, yeah, feel free to check that out. It'd be fun to keep in touch. If you liked this, I'm going to be offering some other workshops probably this fall, I would say. And then through Wet Paint in 2 weeks, I'm going to do an introduction to encaustic painting, just like this. So if you thought this was fun, we're going to mute everyone to start with, though. Just kidding. And that's going to be Friday, July 17th, whatever the Friday.
17th, yes.
Same time,
yeah.
Same channel, 1:30 p.m. Virginia and I are going to be so much more experienced by then, because we'll have had this under our belt. So yes, we'll be covered. Some of the other
Jodi?
questions. Yes.
They can register at webpaint.art.com and click on events, and maybe I can send the link out to people if they're interested. But they might have seen it when they registered for this as well.
And do it fast, because this one filled up in 5 hours, right?
There was pretty close.
And there is going to be a recording available of this too, in case you want to reference that. But what I'm going to be covering in that July introduction will be materials, safety, equipment. I'll be showing 2 or 3 techniques, probably using stencils, incising, scraping. you'll get a whole bunch. You'll kind of get me in a little mini session of what I teach when I teach encaustic painting. So it'll be a full introduction. So if you're not familiar with this painting medium as much, you'll have a good sense after that. Probably collage. So. All right. Well,
All
I
right.
think we've covered everything. Darren, thanks for joining. Anything else I missed? If Darren wants to type anything in with us. I'm putting him on the spot now. Okay. Okay. If you can, yes, you can. So we're going to record. So the question was, are we going to make it available, the video from the July 17th workshop, if they can? And we will record that.
Yes.
Forever and ever. So it'll be on the wet paint website.
Mm-hmm. And you can click on our YouTube icon on the website, and that'll take you directly to our YouTube channel too.
Okay.
So.
Okay, we got some top secret news from Darren that wet paint is the only place to get the colors right now. So this is definitely an exclusive sneak peek. And 20% off. So fill up your stash. Plus shipping, yes, plus shipping. Okay. You guys can all receive those comments too, I think. So I'm just kind of saying what I'm seeing in the comments right now. And I always feel like I'm forgetting to say something, but you know, if I do, if you're interested in getting on my personal mailing list, let me know. I sometimes teach nationally. There's an encaustic conference that happens not this year, but every year, beginning of June in Provincetown, Massachusetts. So if you love encaustic painting, join us there. It's really fun. It's 3 days of learning about different encaustic techniques and meeting artists from all over the country and the world. So I sometimes teach there, and I'd let you know about that if you wanted to get on my mailing list through jodireeb.com and any other workshops. So yes, plus shipping. Anything else? I think this is really fun. I loved geeking out with you with the color theory. So I hope you thought it was very interesting. I find color just so fascinating because it's all in what your eye sees and mixing colors with white or black. So it's kind of fun.
Jodi, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
I think we, and thanks for going a little over because we got a slow start. And so I want to acknowledge all of you for hanging in there with us. Appreciate it very much. You did a fantastic job.